Hey, you all, let me tell you about the night that changed everything at the Red Velvet, the bar in the heart of the red light district. I'm talking about a night when a familiar face, Karoline Leavitt, stood up for what was right, and the ripples of that moment spread far beyond a single bar. Grab a drink and settle in, 'cause this is a story you won't forget. It all started on a warm summer evening when the neon lights of the city flickered to life, bathing the streets in a surreal glow. Red Velvet, a beloved bar known for its electric ambience, was already humming with energy. The bass of a smooth jazz track blended with the clink of glasses and low chatter from the patrons. You see, Red Velvet wasn't just any bar. It was the place where stories were born and legends were made. And tonight, the stage was set for something extraordinary. Karoline Leavitt had been coming to Red Velvet for years. With her easy smile and confident demeanor, she'd become part of the bar's fabric. Every time she walked in, the regulars nodded in greeting. Tonight, like any other evening, she slipped inside, her heels clicking against the worn wooden floor. She was looking forward to unwinding with her favorite cocktail, Crimson Sunset, and soaking in the familiar buzz that only this place could deliver. Taking her usual seat at the bar, right in front of the neon-lit display and just a few steps away from the entrance, Karoline greeted the bartender with a warm nod. "Evening," she said casually as the bartender, a friendly guy who always remembered her order, slid the perfectly mixed drink her way. For a while, she simply relaxed, watching the dance of colored lights across the bar, noticing the little details. The way the neon sign reflected off the mirror behind the bar, the murmur of conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter echoing down the darkened hallways of the red light district. Just as the comfortable routine was settling in, a disturbance shattered the usual rhythm of the night. Out of nowhere, a young employee, one of the newer hires, stepped forward from behind the bar. His voice was soft yet carried an edge of urgency as he said, "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry, but you need to leave right now." The words hit like a sudden chill. Karoline's hand froze mid-air, the untouched cocktail trembling on the bar counter. She blinked, trying to process what she just heard. "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" she asked, her tone calm but laced with genuine confusion. The employee shifted uncomfortably. "I have orders from management," he said, his eyes darting about as if seeking escape from the confrontation. "You must leave immediately." There was an awkward silence. The usual buzz of chatter paused for a split second as a few patrons turned their heads, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. Karoline's mind raced. She had never experienced anything like this at Red Velvet. The bar had always been her haven, a sanctuary where respect was mutual. But now, here she was, being told to leave without any explanation. "I'm a regular here," Karoline said, her voice measured yet firm. "I come here to relax and enjoy my evening. If there's a problem, I deserve to know what it is." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on the young employee. "Can you please explain why I have to leave?" Before the employee could muster a reply, a figure emerged from behind the bar. A woman with a presence that could silence any room with a single look. Lena, the owner of Red Velvet, had arrived. With her dark hair pulled back into a sleek bun and dressed in a smart, tailored outfit that balanced authority with warmth, Lena radiated confidence. Her eyes, however, revealed a hint of concern as she observed the scene unfolding. "Wait a minute," Lena interjected, her voice clear and decisive. "Karoline Leavitt is one of our oldest, most respected guests. I'm not sure what this is all about." She looked at the employee with a raised eyebrow, as if to say, "Explain yourself." The employee's face flushed with uncertainty. I'm not sure. I just received instructions that you must ask her to leave immediately," he stammered, his voice betraying his discomfort. Karoline took a deep breath, the ambient light of the neon signs flickering across her determined expression. "Listen," she said, addressing both the employee and Lena. "If there's any kind of misunderstanding, I think I deserve a proper explanation. I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came here to unwind. But if I'm being singled out, then I need to understand why." The atmosphere in the bar grew tense as the patrons began to murmur among themselves. Some exchanged looks of sympathy. Others nodded in support of Karoline's right to be treated fairly. Lena's gaze softened as she regarded Karoline, her face reflecting a mixture of regret and resolve. "Look, I do understand that there have been some complaints tonight about disruptive behavior," Lena began slowly, choosing her words with care. "But I've never heard anything about you, Karoline. You've always been one of our most polite and appreciated customers." Karoline's eyes narrowed just a fraction. "That's exactly my point," she replied. "If there is a complaint or if someone feels uncomfortable, shouldn't I be informed? I have the right to defend myself, and I certainly don't deserve to be kicked out without any discussion." Lena sighed and gestured for Karoline to sit back down. "I'm sorry for the confusion," she said, her tone conciliatory yet authoritative. "Let me see if I can clear this up. I need to talk to my staff, and I promise I'll come back with an answer." A moment later, Lena stepped away toward a small office behind the bar. The murmurs in the bar grew louder, the tension palpable in the charged air. Karoline waited, her heart steadily beating as she scanned the room, her mind piecing together the implications of this unexpected turn of events. After what felt like an eternity, though in truth it was only a few minutes, Lena returned. Her expression had shifted, reflecting a combination of frustration and determination. "Karoline," she said, addressing her directly, "I've spoken with my staff. Apparently, there were reports about some guests feeling that interactions in the bar were becoming a bit too forward tonight. It seems there was a misinterpretation of what was meant as friendly banter." Karoline raised an eyebrow. "A misinterpretation? I don't recall ever making anyone feel uncomfortable," she replied, her tone laced with disbelief. "I've been here for years, chatting with friends and even strangers, always with respect. This is the first time I'm hearing about any issue." Lena nodded, acknowledging the absurdity of the situation. "Exactly. I've always known you to be considerate, and that's why I'm perplexed too. I must confess that I was also surprised by the instruction to ask you to leave. It appears that someone, perhaps a guest, filed a complaint, but the details were vague. I should have handled it differently, and for that, I apologize." A hush fell over the bar as Lena's words settled in. Karoline's gaze softened, but her resolve remained unyielding. "Thank you, Lena," she said quietly. "But listen, this isn't just about me. It's about ensuring that every customer is treated with the respect they deserve. If a misunderstanding arises, shouldn't we have a system in place to resolve it before jumping to conclusions?" Lena looked directly at Karoline, her eyes reflecting the weight of responsibility. "You're absolutely right," she agreed. "Communication is key. I promise you, I'll review our procedures and ensure that no one ever has to experience this kind of confusion again." Just then, a low murmur ran through the room as one of the patrons, an older gentleman who had been quietly sipping his drink, spoke up. "I've been coming here for decades, and I've never seen such an outburst. It's good to see someone stand up for fairness," he commented, his voice sincere. Others nodded in agreement, and the sense of camaraderie grew stronger. It wasn't long before the conversation turned to the idea of accountability and the importance of treating everyone with dignity, whether they were longtime regulars or newcomers. "Now, let's get back to enjoying the night," Lena said, smiling warmly as she tried to restore the relaxed atmosphere. "Karoline, please enjoy your drink. Consider this my personal promise that things will be set right." Karoline, still a bit shaken but emboldened by the support around her, returned to her seat. As she sipped her crimson sunset, she couldn't help but reflect on the irony of the situation. Here she was, in a place that had been her second home, forced into a confrontation over something that was never even clearly explained. And yet, through it all, she'd managed to keep her cool and demand the respect that was her due. For the rest of the night, the bar slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The neon lights cast a gentle glow over everything, and the music began to swell once again. But something had changed not just in the ambience, but in the collective spirit of the patrons. Karoline's unwavering stance had reminded everyone that speaking up for oneself was not just a personal battle. It was a stand for fairness and respect that resonated with all. Over the next few weeks, the incident at Red Velvet became the talk of the town. People from all walks of life began discussing the importance of clear communication and accountability, and many recalled times when they had been wronged or misunderstood in similar ways. Social media buzzed with stories of personal empowerment, with hashtags like #NeonJustice and #StandUpAtRedVelvet trending for days. One evening, not long after the incident, a group of regulars gathered at the bar, this time to celebrate the spirit of community that had been ignited by that unforgettable night. Lena had organized an open discussion, inviting everyone to share their experiences and thoughts on the matter of respect and fairness. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of unity and purpose. Karoline, now a recognized symbol of standing up for one's rights, was invited to speak. She stepped up to the small stage in the corner of the bar, microphone in hand, and looked out at the expectant faces of friends and strangers alike. "Hey everyone," she began in a warm, conversational tone that immediately put the audience at ease. "I never imagined that a simple night out would lead to such a deep conversation about respect. But here we are. I stand before you not as someone who's trying to stir up trouble, but as someone who believes that every one of us deserves to be heard. If there's ever a misunderstanding, let's talk about it openly. Let's listen to each other, and let's ensure that respect isn't something we take for granted." Her words resonated with the crowd, and soon, the discussion blossomed into a genuine exchange of ideas. People talked about the importance of empathy, the pitfalls of miscommunication, and how a single moment of courage could spark a movement towards better treatment for everyone. That night, Red Velvet wasn't just a bar. It had transformed into a hub for dialogue, where every voice mattered. Meanwhile, Lena took the opportunity to reflect on her responsibilities as a business owner. In a candid conversation with one of her most trusted managers later that night, she admitted, "I've learned something very important from this incident. It's not enough to simply enforce rules. We must ensure that those rules are fair and that every customer feels valued." Tonight, Karoline reminded me that respect isn't something that can be dictated. It's earned through genuine understanding and open communication. Her manager nodded in agreement, and together they resolved to implement a new training program for the staff, one that would emphasize empathy, active listening, and conflict resolution. Lena wanted to ensure that every guest, whether a longtime regular or a first-timer, left the bar feeling heard and respected. Over time, the changes at Red Velvet began to bear fruit. Incidents of miscommunication decreased, and the bar's reputation for excellent customer service grew even stronger. Karoline continued to visit regularly, and her courageous stand that fateful night became a legend in the neighborhood. A reminder that one person's voice could indeed make a difference. One particularly memorable evening, as the rain drizzled softly outside and the neon signs glowed even brighter against the dark sky, Karoline found herself reflecting on how much had changed. Sitting at her usual spot at the bar, she mused aloud to a friendly stranger next to her. "You know, sometimes it takes just one moment of standing up for yourself to spark a change that goes far beyond what you'd ever imagine." The stranger smiled, replying, "Absolutely. It's like that night at Red Velvet, when you demanded an explanation and insisted on being treated fairly. It wasn't just about you, it was about all of us. That kind of courage can ripple out and change things." Their conversation continued, touching on themes of dignity, community, and the power of honest dialogue. And while they came from different walks of life, the shared understanding of what had transpired at Red Velvet forged an unspoken bond between them. As the night wore on and the crowd began to thin, Lena made one final round, stopping by Karoline's table. "I just want to say thank you," Lena said sincerely. "Thank you for reminding us what this place is truly about. Respect, honesty, and a commitment to treating everyone as a person, not just a customer." Karoline smiled warmly. "No, thank you, Lena. It's because of people like you who care enough to make changes that we all feel a little safer, a little more understood." And with that, the night came to a close. The neon lights of Red Velvet slowly dimmed as the bar prepared to close its doors, but the energy of that evening lingered on. Outside, as Karoline stepped onto the bustling street, she took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that while the night had been filled with unexpected challenges, it had also been a testament to the power of speaking up, of standing your ground, and of demanding the respect you deserve. In the days and weeks that followed, the story of that evening spread far and wide. Social media posts recounted the moment with hashtags celebrating the courage of standing up for fairness. Local newspapers even ran feature stories on how a simple act of self-respect could inspire a community to come together and rethink what respect really meant. For Karoline, the experience became a defining moment, a turning point in her life that reminded her of the strength that lay in her conviction. Whenever she felt the weight of the world pressing in, she'd remember that night, the way she had spoken, the way she had looked the world in the eye and said, "I deserve better." And she'd smile, knowing that sometimes, the simplest actions can change the course of many lives. So here's to that night at Red Velvet, a night of neon justice, of bold voices, and of the unyielding power of one person's stand for fairness. It's a story that reminds us all to listen, to speak up, and to ensure that every moment of our lives is lived with dignity, respect, and the courage to challenge the status quo. And as I wrap up this tale, I can't help but think, if every one of us took a page out of Karoline's book, maybe the world wouldn't be so quick to judge or dismiss without first listening to the truth. Maybe then, every space, be it a humble bar or a bustling street, could be a sanctuary of respect and understanding, a place where everyone's voice was valued. That's the power of a single courageous act. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're being unfairly treated, remember Karoline's words and her stance. Stand up, speak out, and know that by doing so, you not only reclaim your dignity, but you might also ignite a spark that leads to a brighter, fairer tomorrow. Thank you for listening to this story. A reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected moments become the catalysts for change, that every one of us has the right to be heard, and that true respect is earned through understanding, open conversation, and a relentless commitment to justice.